And thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. If you need a website or domain, go to squarespace.com/AlexArmitage to save 10% off your first purchase.
All right, 2 disclaimers to start this video. The first is that you're going to notice, if you're a returning viewer, that I don't sound the same. And that is because I'm actually quite sick. I've spent the last 4 days on that couch that you see behind me trying to muster up the health to make this video. So bear with me if I say some weird stuff or loopy things or there's some weird cuts. And the second thing is that I know many of you clicking on this video are probably never going to even fathom the idea of not editing your images. Heck, just last year, I probably would have watched this video and still continued to not even try what I'm about to talk about, because I always said that I take raw images with the intention of editing those and turning them into something I'm proud of. But if you just give me a couple minutes of your time, I think that I can convince at least one of you, which is saying a lot because there's probably like 5 of you watching at this point, to try it. Because for me, it really opened up my eyes and generated a different perspective of my own photography when I was taking photos without editing in mind, when I was out shooting intentionally rather than just shooting and making it work when I got back to the computer. I want to start off by saying that I love editing. It's actually what helped me build this channel, and it's one of the things that I enjoyed the most about landscape photography. I'll give you an example. Back in 2017, which was about the first year of me really dedicating my time and energy only into landscape photography, I did what a lot of people do. They take a trip to Iceland to capture some really epic landscapes. But if you know Iceland, you know that if you go for 7 days, you might see the sun one of those days. And I got to visit this famous spot, Kirkjufell, twice. But both times that I went in the middle of the night for the midnight sun, I didn't necessarily get the conditions that I wanted. But I still really tried to make compositions work. I will admit that a lot of my compositions were probably just influenced by other people. I didn't go there trying to reinvent the wheel. I just went there to try to make my own strong images. And one of those images was this wide 7-shot pano from left to right, where you've got Kirkjufell in the back and a waterfall in the bottom of the frame. And overall, technically, it was a good image, but I wasn't wowed by it. I wasn't blown away, and it didn't match what I wanted my photography to look like. So I came back home and I spent a lot of time editing this image, light painting and painting in contrast and resizing Kirkjufell so that it looked more realistic to the size of what it actually looks like in real life. And at the end of the day, I probably spent 10 hours editing this image, and I was really proud of that shot. But it really went to show that because I only had a select few days there, or 2 instances to try to get what I wanted, that a lot of it just came away in the edit. Now, you might be looking at these images thinking that's too much, or that's too little, or what are you doing? That's not photography. There's a lot of opinions about how much you can edit your images. But all that really matters to me, and matters in this video, is that I enjoyed myself, and that I got to teach myself some skills at the time, and came away with an image that at the time I was very proud of. Now I look at that and say, I probably wouldn't do that. I probably would just shelf that image and actually not push it that far. Not necessarily because I think it's wrong to do that, but just because I feel like for me, it's more of a challenge now to try to get the shots that I want rather than the shots that I can just fix in the edit. And this is where editing really lost its, I guess, allure for me. It's something that I ended up crutching on. It's something that I ended up relying on, and it kind of ended up disconnecting me from my photography. Because what would happen is I started to get so good at editing that I knew that I could just have the confidence to show up to a place once or twice, take some images, and probably make it work in the edit. And because of that, it meant that I didn't focus on the actual photography as much. I just went, I kind of tried to replicate things that I was impressed by from other people, and then I tried to edit in a way that made me happy. And again, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If that's a place you're in, that's incredible. And I love that for you. And it's something that you should really explore, because it's something that I thoroughly enjoyed within my own photography. And I think a key takeaway from this is that I remember so much more about editing that photo than I do being in the scene taking the photo. And I think that that's what really clicked when I started using the Fuji X100VI. This camera gave me permission to enjoy my photos without editing them. I know that sounds ridiculous, and I talked about it in my last video talking about the Nikon Zf. But I've spent my whole career shooting in RAW with the expectation that I'm going to go, and the only way to make it look good or enjoy it is by editing it. However, the gimmick or the catch or the one of the main things of the Fuji X100VI is that you can take images with film simulations or recipes or anything like that and enjoy them without editing. Just slap basically what looks like a style or a preset or whatever onto it, and that's the image. And because I took a month-long road trip just shooting on this camera basically and only trying to get the images correct straight out of camera, but it made me focus on the actual photography. It made me focus on my composition. It made me focus on the light. It made me not take images because I knew that I wasn't going to edit them. Because sometimes there's just limitations with your camera. And that's where editing can be really powerful. You can take focus stacked images or exposure blended images of a bracketed image because your camera can't capture all of the light and all of the dark in one scene. And I think that's still totally an entirely good place to have edits. But it made me take a different type of photography. Instead of showing up to a scene and looking for a wide shot where I could take a big grand landscape, I was like, well, I'm not gonna be able to edit this. And those images tend to only work when you can edit them. So what can I make work right in the camera? And it's not necessarily about specifically the camera. It was just that it gave me permission to just be like, hey, go try this. It just pushed me off the ledge into something that I hadn't really thought about or done in my entire career of landscape photography. So the process was twofold. Not only was I not planning on editing the images, it also meant that I was trying to get everything correct in camera, which is something that I obviously still do even when I'm consider editing, but I could rely so much on, okay, I got the horizon wrong, or the crop I'll figure out later, or I'll just Photoshop out this little thing that's over here. But instead, it was like this personal challenge to myself to say, I'm not gonna edit this image, and I'm gonna show it to you guys without doing so I better get it right in camera. And that was really rewarding. It just made me see the world in a different way, and it actually made me prioritize photography that was completely different than what I had just been shooting not too long before it. I even tried to carry this over when I made the Hasselblad X2D video, where I showed quite a few of the images from that video straight out of camera because I found them so pleasing. But I was doing things like overexposing my images, changing the compositions a little bit, or trying to just get it right in camera because of my influence from the other cameras that I was using. And most recently on my Nikon Zf video, which if you missed, you can obviously check it out here, I talk about how important it is to have these film recipes and stuff built in so that you can really just enjoy your images straight on the back of the camera. Because I have to admit, if I go out and try to get images with zero editing in mind on like my Canon R5, it's a lot harder because the picture profiles on there are a few. I typically just leave mine in like flat RAW. So when I look at the images at the back of the camera, it's just showing me the detail that it captured. It's not showing me anything that looks great. All the colors are muted, all of the contrast is gone, and overall it's not very enjoyable when I look at it on the back of the camera. It's meant to be taken in and edited. So that's something to keep in mind, is that there are definitely cameras out there that are more suited for this challenge, but I do think that you can do it on any camera system. Just make sure you go in and turn on one of the profiles on a camera and just go out and challenge yourself. Sincerely, it's more about the practice of just allowing yourself to go out, make some images without having to edit them in mind. And of course, you can still go edit them if you want to, or you can just edit them lightly. And if you're interested in checking out a few of the Nikon recipes for the Nikon Zf, I've actually gone ahead and registered the domain nikonrecipe.com. For now, this is going to take you to my recipes that you can download for free, but in the future, my hope is to turn it into an entire website dedicated to the Nikon recipe community, which will be easy because I'm going to be using today's sponsor, Squarespace. Did you know how fast your website loads impacts your search results on Google? For example, a page like my Nikon recipes is filled with images. Honestly, probably too many and is definitely not optimized for search engines, but Squarespace handles this type of thing without you ever knowing. First of all, as photographers, we like to upload large images to our website, which makes it slow and thus also ends up hurting our search results. Squarespace actually manages all this, and it takes those images while keeping their quality and generating multiple smaller versions to produce a better user experience. Watch as I scroll through this page with lots of images. You're going to notice that my browser is only loading the images once I scroll to them, which is important for faster website load times. And it's also loading smaller versions of those images to reduce load times. And if I click on any image, you're going to see that it's going to load the full-size image with a lot more detail.
All of this is being done in the background by Squarespace, thus improving your potential search engine results and, more importantly, the user experience of anyone visiting your website. And trust me, this is the type of thing that was an absolute pain in the butt when I had to do it myself, and Squarespace handles all of it seamlessly. You could try all of these features out completely free with their trial just to see how easy it is. If you enjoy your experience like I have for the past 8 years, you can use code AlexArmitage at checkout or visit squarespace.com/AlexArmitage, and you're going to save 10% off your first purchase, and you're also going to help support this channel.
Now look, I'm still going to edit my images. Actually, I'm making free editing videos on my free Patreon, which you can get with a link in the description if you're interested. It's totally free, and some very insightful things in there about how I'm thinking about editing or processing an image, rather than just the technical stuff behind an image. I've spent the last year and a half being pretty disconnected, something I might talk about more in a future video. But the challenge of just getting it right in camera and really connecting with the actual moment of photography has made it a completely different experience. Whereas before I would go and shoot a bunch of technical stuff, whether it was a focus stack or a panel like I started this video talking about, and blending things together and really just making a very technical image. Whereas now I'm like, okay, let's forget all of that. What images can I make just here in this moment? And try to enjoy and connect with whatever it is that I'm taking and have a conversation with, rather than just finding the images that I knew and editing them how I knew, and just pushing myself to branch out and try something different. And I really encourage you to try it as well, even if it's just going out with the intention of barely editing your photos or getting everything right in camera, or just seeing the world differently if you remove this idea that you're going to go and fix it in post. I know that I would be hesitant of this exact recommendation not too long ago, especially considering a lot of my career was started off of editing videos. But I genuinely do think that it has encouraged me to be a better photographer. And at the end of the day, if I'm not challenging myself and I'm not trying new things, then what am I really doing? Am I even making art at that point? Or if I'm just reproducing and replicating the same thing over and over again? So I think it's good that I push myself, or you push yourself, to try new things, to try something different, and just see what the world looks like with that in mind. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks again for checking it out. Thanks again for bearing with me through this voice and everything. I'll see you on the next one. Later.